Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today is season 4, episode 21, and have my friend Matt Webster from Let's Play All here today. My friend, thank you so much from over the pond for making time in the evening.
No problem. Well, thank you for being available in the afternoon for me. Pleasure to be
Yeah,
here.
man. Of course. I've been looking forward to this because it's not often that I get to talk all 90s guitar music on this channel.
Yeah, or at home in general, right?
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
my wife
I
doesn't
don't
talk to me
anyway.
about
No, exactly.
my
So
wife does not like grunge or that era of music, really. Although she did. I came home one day from the grocery store and she had my vinyl copy of Grace spinning. She was listening
Oh,
to Lover, You Should Have Come Over. And I came in and I was like, okay, I
yeah,
see what you're doing.
that's a superb album.
Oh my God, yeah.
That might have to be one of my top 5 favorite albums. Actually, I'd forgotten about that. That's amazing. That's such a good album.
Really, 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 really good. Matt, I want to ask you anyway. We're gonna get into all the grungy, Pearl Jammy, Alice in Chains, all that stuff.
Of course.
But I want to ask you, what is your earliest musical memory?
My earliest musical memory. I don't think that I've got any one particular memory that sticks out as, as wow factor until I was probably a bit older. But there was always quite a bit of music in the house. Like my mum played piano and sang and stuff. I mean, my sister both played piano when we were youngish. It's kind of forced to. I didn't want to play piano. We were just made to play piano. But I think, before I got into my own music, which is when I would have been about maybe 11, I guess, something like that. And someone's older brother would have given a mate of mine a cassette, a mixtape that had Iron Maiden on it. And that sort of led into, this stuff's good. But I actually think the memory that sticks out for me, I know it's not my earliest, but the one that absolutely is tattooed into my, memory is the first kind of couple of proper albums that I bought, and that was Metallica, Master of Puppets, and Motley Crue, Theatre of Pain, right? So we were all into like thrash and glam rock when we were at school. And so I went and bought these two, and I remember sitting, my dad had some hi-fi separates, and I sat down behind the sofa with some headphones on and just pressed play and listened to Battery, obviously the first track. And just, I remember that clearly because something just changed like in me. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I still get it when I hear it now. It takes me right back. It's definitely one of the strongest memories I've got of music for sure.
Nice.
Just the overall tone of the guitars, and by then I was kind of, I quite liked guitar. I wasn't really playing properly, but I quite liked it. So,
Okay. So
yeah, thrash metal.
Yeah, dude, you know what's funny is I've never listened to Iron Maiden. I've never listened to there's a few of those bands that are like these seminal like hard rock 80s groups that like probably a lot of my friends. I mean, I saw a lot of the t-shirts, like a lot of the Iron Maiden t-shirts and like in middle school walking around, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and it always kind of scared me, like it was too dangerous or something for me.
Yeah.
But I never got into that stuff, but I was definitely like Master of Puppets was like that was a pretty like seminal record for me too, like hearing what was capable on the instruments, maybe without having been hip to, people like Steve Vai or Satriani or any of those cats. Like I didn't know anything about those cats. So how did you traverse your love of those records into the love of guitar, which spilled into you playing? Like how old were you?
So I think I must have been about 13 or 14 maybe when I first got a guitar. And I just remember asking my parents, I want a guitar. And it was because I'd got into the music. And that made me want to go, I want to do that. I want to do something like that. And guitar, appealed most to me. But I mean, I think I got the first guitar I had was like a Marlin Sidewinder, right? Like a sort of cheap, imported Strat type thing. And it had a whammy bar in it. And I spent the first year just doing dive bombs. That was it. I'd learned nothing else, right? And then I just used to put it back in the cupboard. and after that, at maybe 14, 15, I started to, I think I had lessons for about a year with a local kind of blues guy who was really good. But, you know, I was just like, why are you teaching me blues? Like, I don't want to learn 12-bar blues. I want to play Slayer. I want to play, you know, Testament and Megadeth and Metallic. You know, I wanted to do all this speed metal and thrash metal stuff. And he was just like, you'll thank me, you know, just learn this stuff. And it did help get me a good grounding. But yeah, and it just went from there. And, you know, much like yourself, I'm sure you get, you know, your mates also into the same sort of music. And then one of them will get drums, find someone else to play bass who wants to sing, you know, and then we started to do our own little sort of garage band, you know, thing, and we played a couple of gigs at our school, you know, in lunchtimes, and we did about 3 of those, and then we did a couple of little pubs. We were only like 15, 16, and I remember at the time actually there was some older kids. This is probably another one of the memories, actually. When I was a bit younger, I saw one of these older kids. They were probably 3 years older than I was at the time, playing in a school play, but it was like a rock school play, right? And they had them all like, they had scaffolding and they had like different levels of stuff. It was really, for where I lived, it was quite a decent production, and for the time, you know. And I remember seeing the guitarist at the time, who was like, you know, the guy who played guitar at school, sort of thing. And he was just shredding, you know, it's just amazing to see. And we were all just like, oh my God, like that, want to do that. So yeah, so we started doing that. But then so I ended up actually playing in a band with them when I was when I was about 15 or something like that. It must have been about 15 or 16. And they were all like, you know, drinking and, you know, big dudes, right? My dad had like drive me around to their flat, right, you know, and drop me off, have a nice time. And they were brilliant. They were lovely and welcoming, but they were, you know, they were not rough guys, but, you know, they were like, I mean, one of the first gigs that we played, the singer smashed a pint glass onto his own head, right? It was the first gig I played with them, and I was just like, what's happening? They were, you know, drinking Newcastle brown ale and stuff, and I was just like, wow, this is just incredible stuff, right? And there was no like stage; it was all just like a, you know, just a wooden floor in this
like the corner of the pub kind of thing.
Well, it was actually like a kind of venue, but where I grew up was like Southwest Wales, right? Which is I don't know if you know Wales, but it's a country stuck on the, you know, the side of England, and it's by the seaside, right? So by the beach. So we had this Miracle Tavern, I think it was called, and he ran and jumped up in the air and just slammed straight onto this hard like parquet, you know, wooden floor, right? No give whatsoever. And from that moment it was just bonkers. And, you know, I was just bitten by it, you know, ever since. But it was crazy. It was a really lovely baptism of fire, actually, playing with the older kids. It was quite cool, you know.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Letting me in their club.
Oh man. So they were like just a few years older than you, 3 or 4 years older than you, kind of thing?
Yeah, but yeah.
Okay.
But really nice guys, you know. They'd always like phone up and be like, "You're coming around for a jam," you know. I'd be like, "Dad."
Yeah.
You know?
Do you keep in touch with any of these cats? Like, do you still keep in touch with any of them?
No, I don't. I need one of them actually on Facebook, but, you know, just off and on. But, you know, they still live back in Wales, so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, great memories. And yeah, there was quite a nice sort of first kind of mentoring, I guess, experience, you know,
right,
for want of a better word.
So what year would that have been?
Oh man, now you're asking. I don't actually know. It would have been, so what? I'm old, so that would have been about early 1980s, I would have thought.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right
so
on.
I mean, the sort of covers that we do would be like some of the Testament stuff, like Testament of the first album, you know, like Megadeth, Peace Sells, I think we did. And then a couple of some original stuff, which is just like a sort of, you know, punk rock sort of stuff, really.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's fun to hear stories like this too, because like when you think back to that time period, you know, like we didn't have, obviously, I'm 40. I just turned 43 this past week, but
nice.
But I don't remember.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. but I don't remember having many tools other than like Guitar World or something like that for tabs. So like
Oh yeah,
when you're that young, you're probably just using your ear, right? To learn all these
totally. Yeah.
tunes. That's what made you who you are right now, too, probably.
Oh yeah, completely. Records. I mean,
Yeah.
records and zip, zip, zip,
Mhm.
back. And what's that? Is that note and stuff? And I think playing the piano initially probably helped. That gave me a little bit of an ear. And then it's, a lot of it's just practice, right? And you keep doing it and doing it. But yeah, I used to love working all that stuff out. But you could send off. I remember at the back of the old like guitar magazines, when Crossroads came out. So that's another classic, right?
Mhm.
And another moment, another music moment that I just went, oh, when I heard, I think it was David Lee Roth with Steve Vai with David Lee Roth and Eat 'Em and Smile. The guitar tone on that album is still to this day one of my favorite, ever guitar tones. It just blew me away then. It still does now. And you could send off anyway when he did his Crossroads bit. You could send off for these. I think it was a cassette and some tab, but it wasn't really proper tab. It was just like the notes, for
Mhm.
like Eugene's Trick Bag and all that sort of stuff that he does at the end of Crossroads. And I remember going through that and just going, some of this is wrong. I mean, it doesn't sound the same. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't sound right. But I was just like, but it must be right because some I paid for it. It must be right, And it wasn't until years later you go, oh, these old tab books, some of these are not good. I mean, there are people debunking loads of those. There's some really good YouTube channels doing a lot of that, revisiting tab books and going, yeah, why would you put that in?
Yeah. Oh, man, that's
But
so funny. Dude, when I first started playing guitar, I have a friend who's still my best friend to this day, and we formed a band together in the 8th grade. But in the 7th grade, when I first started playing, I remember getting like a tab book for Alice in Chains or something, and like trying to learn those tunes and then trying to play with them. Like, this doesn't sound right. This isn't right. And my friend was like, dude, did you see the thing how it says E flat, A flat, D flat? I was like, what? And he's like, you have to tune your guitar down a half step. And I was like, oh, duh. So like I had that fun, stupid moment as well.
how
Way
annoying
worse
is
than
that
you.
though? Thanks,
So
Gary.
we got some people here just chiming in, saying hello. Sean's
Ah,
here.
Alexander.
Pearl Jam lovers unite. Cheers from Finland.
Hey, Yanni.
And then Sean is saying, "Hey, true, so true about those tab books." Um,
Mhm.
all right, so we're getting through the '80s, right? So we get to the precipice of my favorite and maybe your favorite decade of music. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna maybe speaking for you, but for me, it was a very life changing moment the first time I heard 10. Um, so where were you the first time you heard that record?
Where was I? Uh, I don't actually know. I mean, I actually could probably tell you where I was when Vitology came out. Maybe that's because my memory is so awful. But I just remember I was probably at home. I mean, I I think I was probably just at home listening to it with friends. Um, and I mean, it blew me away. I mean, I can still remember some of the standout parts are obviously like the intro when Once comes in, just
Mhm.
like Mike McCready's like movement behind Stone's part in that is in the chorus is just insane. And then, Even Flow, I think is track 2, right? And that chorus part, Mike's lick in the chorus part, that state, I was just like, oh, rewind that
Mm.
bit. I remember that. And because that was so soulful and melodic and just icing on that cake, right? It's such a brilliant tune anyway. Um, so yeah, I remember there's loads of standout moments from. I think the obvious ones as well, like the intro to Alive. I mean, when you hear that, you're just like, oh yeah, gonna have to. I want to learn that, and I want to sound exactly like that as well. And Porch as well. Porch is another good one, right? I mean, it's just there's not a bad song on that album, is there? How about you? What are your favorite
On
moments from that album?
I mean, honestly, man, as I get older, Oceans is a big song for me.
Ooh.
And I think the reason that song is big for me now is it kind of like anytime I hear that, I reflect on my life, and like where I am now and like just like holding on to the moment. I think that song that's what that song means to me, like being present and everything.
Mm.
But Deep was always my favorite song. And I think that
Mm.
there was a period of time in my guitar playing life where things shifted very much so, like, 180. Like I was super deep into all the grunge heavy stuff, and then all of a sudden I got exposed to like funk music and like
Mm.
R&B and blues. And for some reason my guitar focus shifted that way to like more funk and like jazz fusion and things like that, like through the end of probably the end of college into my professional music career, because I really started pushing myself hard and on chops wise.
Mm.
But in the moments, like during that time, like middle school, high school, first part of college and everything, like Deep was like, I guess, the introduction to kind of funky stuff. Like I could say the same thing about Dirty Frank. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
when I first heard that, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. You know what I mean? Because it's like a mashup of all that stuff. But yeah, Deep has always been one of my faves on that record. Just like, if you listen to Verses, like I've always loved Leash. Like
Yeah,
Leash has always been my fave on that record.
yeah. That's a
So
banging tune, and it's
that triplet thing in the beginning.
heavily like Stone's influence, guitar playing, isn't it? It's all open chords and those, extensions.
Yeah.
Keith Richards type stuff, isn't it? That Stone brought to that. Yeah, just incredible stuff.
But think about like how hip, like I think Jeff Ament is one of the most underrated bass players in rock and roll history. Because if you think about a song like Leash, the beginning of that tune, like he's playing straight triplets, and then it takes a hard left turn. He's
Yeah,
like dun,
yeah.
dun, 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 and then it's just like boom, 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 boom. It's just like the way he's subdividing that and how that leads into the song itself. It's hip, man. There's like he does so much hip bass playing over every Pearl Jam record,
Yeah.
and I'm so like happy when I hear someone acknowledge it, because I think he deserves every ounce of it. As a
He's
player.
he's like an R&B punk, kind of bass player, right? I know I did a poor man's Rick Beato years ago, right, on Black. So I found a load of isolated tracks, went through them all, and there's loads available for especially 10, which is great. All of the guitar tracks you can get isolated, which is great, especially if you, like us, you want to you want to understand how the archaeology of it all, right, and hear it on their own. And his bass line in Black, if you sped that up, that's a funk bass line. I mean,
Yeah.
that it is just a really funky bass line, but it's, what is it, a ballad? It's
Totally.
and I think something that Dave Abruzzese brought to them as well was a bit more funk.
Mm-hmm.
They've always had brilliant drummers, but I know with the certainly that second album, with Verses and the MTV Unplugged as well, there's some funk to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved. But yeah, he's a tremendous bass player. And not
Yeah.
only that, but he's playing fretless all the time. He plays fretless on loads of 10.
And his intonation is amazing.
Yeah,
It's
like
so
Even Flow,
good.
I think is all fretless. I mean, good luck.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's technical.
And like you said, like with Alive, like that's got to be one of the greatest guitar tones as well from that time period. Like that
Sure.
like he must have been playing. He's probably playing through like a JCM 800 or something like that, I bet.
Yeah, I think I think 10 primarily was JCM 800 and Tube Screamers, right? I mean, and funnily enough, that was the thought behind this 1991 pedal, right? Which will ping you. But that, I remember buying a JCM 800 when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, and it was pre Pearl Jam, but I was like, all of these like metal guys have got like JCM 800s. This because you couldn't really, there weren't really many shops you could go to where I lived to go and try stuff out. So you just bought it and ordered it, and it arrived, right?
Right.
And I remember turning on, I had a stack as well, like turned it on and was just like, this is like the weediest tone I could possibly. I was like, what have I bought this for? Like, it's rubbish.
Oh
I couldn't
no.
believe how rubbish this JCM 800 one, this classic rock amp was. And I had a Governor pedal, one of the original Governor pedals, and that was brilliant because it was a bit higher gain. So I loved that. And I was just like, why have I bought this amp? And I didn't, there was no internet, right? You couldn't go and ask someone, why is that? Why does it sound like this? Someone could have gone, oh yeah, if you put this into it, it'll sound even, you'll get more gain, So I flogged that. And I think I bought an ADA MP1 or whatever they were called. Do you remember those? The rack mount stuff? Oh man. I think I read in an article that Kirk Hammett, walked past one once. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll get that then. So I got rid of that. And I had a Marshall like power amp, and then this ADA MP1, and it was quite a high gain. It had a few like effects in it and stuff. And like Vito Bratta from White Lion, I think he used one as well, and he had a great tone. So that was just brilliant. I was just like, oh yeah, this does it. Yeah, I'll use this then. But I just had no idea. I don't think I've ever really had any concept of that sort of stuff until that pedal show really started to talk about these sort of things, right? And that's pretty new. And so yeah, it's only now really that you're able to kind of go, oh, this is what they were doing,
Yeah, man.
Back then we just had no idea, it was just magic,
So how long did you have the JCM 800 before you got rid of it?
Like weeks. Yeah.
Just wow. Okay.
Next. Yeah. Doesn't work.
What's your current amp that you're using, like when you're recording, or if you're just at home enjoying yourself playing? Like, what are you playing?
I use the Victory V40 all the time. I'm getting sent an exciting new amp soon, which would be cool. I can't wait to play that. But yeah, the V40's just been the go-to one. I actually had that I probably had that since I started the YouTube channel. So yeah, I must have had it for about 5 years, and they were just always brilliant. Victory were always amazing with like any of the bits and pieces that went wrong. Like I had a weird fault that they'd only seen in like 3 of their amps, like worldwide. They were like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Just send it back and we'll sort it out. It comes, they're brilliant. And I had gigs and they were like, do you want to send you a loaner, like in case you need one for gigs and stuff? I was like, oh wow. They're just,
that's awesome.
And I, they were brilliant. But it's superb as a pedal platform. I know this is a very popular phrase now, but I generally don't have enough money to go out and buy like 10 amps, right, to get that amp sound. Mm-hmm. So I just pedals are like the cheap way to own a load of boutique amps, or to get the sounds that you want from your favorite idols, right? And going back to the tones of like 10 and Steve Vai and all that sort of stuff, I always loved trying to play the stuff as close as I possibly could, but also trying to get the sound right. And so this YouTube channel is 4 years old, I think, something like that now. So I do a lot more of that now, where I try and nail the tones, because it just occurred to me that I just love doing that. It's something that I really, really enjoy. I love the chat. It's a problem to solve. And when you crack it or get close anyway, it's just so much fun, when you can hear that, under your fingers.
Yeah.
That sound from that album is it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah. And you do a really good job on your channel and all your posts in terms of like tone matching and like legitimately, authentically trying to get that pinnacle. Even if you're like, it's right there. I'm pretty close. It's that's what it is. Like, it's good. Like it's good enough kind of thing. Like I feel like I've heard you say it's 99.9 there. I think we got it. But like it's usually like every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that's that tone, man. You got it. So that's fun, dude. And so let's go back. Let's go back to the grunge thing. So 10 was one of my wow moments. Heard it on a trip to Canada, immediately recorded the CD to a cassette before the album had officially been released in Finland. Oh, that's cool. Nice. That's
pirate.
Cool. That's awesome, dude. I mean, that's the thing is I can remember being a kid. I don't know if you guys had stuff like this overseas, but like for instance, when Vitalogy came out.
Yeah.
My drummer and I, we were in high school at the time. My drummer and I went to, the record store was opening their doors at midnight when Vitalogy came out, so you could get a copy of Vitalogy. So we like went and like laid on the sidewalk after they
Oh, wow.
closed, kind of thing, to be like in line. And then my parents like picked us up at whatever 12:30, whatever it was. But so there was moments like that I found myself. It's funny because when I got this tattoo a couple weeks ago,
Love it. Let's have a look.
I have
Oh, yes.
so
Oh, it's Yield and Stickman, right?
That's my favorite album.
Nice.
So, but I can remember, when I was getting this, when I decided, okay, I'm gonna permanently affect my body. I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna get? Like for 15 years, Matt, I've been talking about getting a tattoo, and I finally did it. Maybe it's a midlife crisis, I don't know. But I was like, that band really does mean more to me than anything in musical history, because it led me on my path, regardless of the fact that, like, yes, do I listen to them weekly? Sure. Yeah, of course. But they made me who I am. The reason I'm sitting here right now, even, and talking about music, is because of them. So I was like, yep, that's fair. I can do that. I can put that on my body. But it's so interesting because over the years, I've had so many conversations with people who are like, I just don't like Pearl Jam. After Vitalogy, it was, I'm like, yeah, but like I was talking to someone like, what are your thoughts on, like, for instance, like Backspacer, like that record? I think it's a good record. It's just not my fave.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Backspacer. I think because Backspacer, so I think the first three generally, most people will relate to and go, yeah, love that. I mean, because Vitalogy's got what, Better Man and, Immortality and Nothing Man. There's a lot of accessible tunes on that. I think for me, it was probably when they did, God, I can't remember what it's called, Riot Act, right? That was probably when I was just like, oh, what's going on here? And I did go off them I didn't go off them, but I just thought, I'm not really sort of keen on that. And then there was the Lost Dogs, which ironically now is just like gold dust to have, all those extra beats. But at the time, I kind of grew away from them a bit, really. And then I definitely came back with, what was the one before Backspacer? I think I might have that written down. The Avocado one, right? So the Pearl Jam's, self-titled one. I loved that. I thought that was brilliant. And that kind of got me back into them again.
Yeah.
But I think Backspace is a great album.
Yeah.
I genuinely love it. I actually love the last two albums as well. And some people were just like, oh God, for old friends of mine who were just like, no way. And I don't know if it's because, I mean, I've pretty much worked out most of their tunes, most of their album tunes anyway. And even songs that I might not want to listen to, some of them are amazing fun to play. And I think once you start to, pick apart the tunes and you appreciate what's gone into them, you get a newfound understanding and a newfound appreciation for them. And then they sort of worm their way into your heart. I mean, I love that. I think on Riot Act that you are, I mean, I bought a drum machine so that I could put my guitar through it and get that tone, right? That stuttery tone, right? Because there's no, there's no other way to do it, right? And that's what they did. I think they might even use one live, right? Because you'll hear, when you hear that live, you'll hear a 4-bar count-in, which is not Matt Cameron, right? It's a drum machine, because I think they must be synced up to that, right? Because that's what Stone's guitar's going through. So, and once those patterns are locked in and the song started, do you mean? There's no way back, right? He can't go, oh, let me just pick up that verse again, because it'll have moved to a different pattern. And that's become, I love how some of those songs that just weren't popular have become fan favorites when they play them live, because they just, I think they become a different thing live. They're such a good live band. 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I mean, and mixing the setups, you could go and see them. You don't think twice about going, right, they're playing 2 nights, definitely going to see them both of those nights for 6 or 7 hours worth of music, because you might get one of those songs that you've always wanted to hear live, right?
Yep.
So yeah, how about you? Have you seen them live much?
Oh yeah, a bunch. Yeah. They don't come into my demographic area a lot. In fact, they were supposed to, like right before COVID,
Mm.
like March 2020, they were supposed to be here, and of course they canceled it. And then they were like, save your tickets, we're coming. And then a couple months prior to March, they were like, we can't come to Baltimore because they're redoing the arena. Like they're
Oh,
basically revamping their arena. I did see
yeah.
Paul McCartney Sunday night, and that was ridiculous.
Wicked.
And he played for almost 3 hours straight, and he's 79. So
Wow.
I was coming home and I was thinking, okay, that means I still got a lot of time to see Pearl Jam. Because if Paul McCartney's doing that, they better be playing when they're 79. They probably won't, but
You'd hope so.
it's interesting because when I have seen them, it's been like a one night kind of thing. They're in town,
Yeah.
but they're like the Grateful Dead, where they're changing up their set lists. Although I do have a bone to pick with Eddie in terms of always playing Baba in the encore or playing Alive in the encore. I'm like, dude, you guys have so many good songs. Like, change it
Yeah.
up, man. Like, don't
Yeah.
play Baba O'Reilly as the encore. Like, do something crazy like Save You or like,
Rockin' in the Free World's another one. That's
yeah,
always. I mean, they play that probably
always,
more than Baba, right? But yeah,
probably.
it's their go-to closer, isn't it?
If they came out for an encore and played God's Dice, I would lose my friggin' mind. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I
Yeah.
know they're trying to, give the fans what they want, but I'm like, I'm a big fan and I don't want it anymore. How about that? Like, don't give me Rockin' in the Free World. Don't give me Baba. Don't give me Alive. I can go to a show and not see Alive and be happy as like a clam. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I do like the snobby, super fan in me is kind of like, that's how I feel about their live shows. But
Yeah.
listen, there's also a ton of shows where they'll pull out like Pilot, and you're like, whoa, that sounded great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so, and I'm sure those dudes, like, if you watch like PJ20, like Howard Stone's like, somebody sent these over so I could relearn like the songs
Yeah.
that I
Totally,
wrote. You know what
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
can imagine it. I mean, especially when you've got someone mixing up the set list, I can imagine that they just can't, yeah, you just can't keep all that stuff in your head, right? It's because
No.
it's years ago since you wrote it, right? You probably,
Decades.
struggle
Yeah.
to remember what tuning was that in, especially Stone, because like I mean, if you've ever tried to play, one of my things was I'm going to learn an album back to back and play along with the album, and I wanted to do that ages back for 10, I think it was. Yeah, it was 10. And it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare if you're playing Stone's parts, because he's always in different tunings. Like he has open tunings. Yes, you've got so you can't just play. So you go, oh wait, let me just retune all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how they keep that in mind. In fact, I remember tabbing out one that Mike did in a weird tuning. I forget what it was. I think it was
Given to Fly or something.
It wasn't Given to Fly. I think it was Present Tense, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he played that in a dadgad tuning, I think, and then on the album. But then now live, he plays that in like an open D, right? Which is just like F. So the G's changes to F sharp, right? But it fundamentally changes. Like, have a listen to the studio version and then have a listen to a fairly recent version of that. He's playing it differently because he's in different tuning. No idea why, but he's just started to do it, and the song sounds different now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, so who knows, right? Maybe just went, I think that was open D, and then just went with it, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. They when they came here in 2013, it was cool because they played a bunch of stuff off Yield. They must have been, and that's like, how they've done that where they'll do a show or they'll play an album, like the whole thing front to back. They almost did that, but they didn't really do that. But that song in particular, like when they played stuff from No Code, when they did Present Tense, I was like, it was different. And then I don't know if Mike just kind of goofed some stuff, but you could tell there was a little, it wasn't a train wreck or anything like that, but something was up. But that song, and I remember standing outside when we were lining up to go in, talking with my buddies, like, what song do you want to hear tonight? And I said Present Tense. Because No Code, dude, like Jack Irons is, I think, one of my favorite drummers as far as the history.
Oh, really?
Nobody hits a snare like that guy. Like,
Yeah.
listen to Yield, listen to
It's
No Code.
tribal, isn't it?
Oh man, it's guttural. It's like primal the way that he attacks the kit. And I feel like sometimes that's almost like what that music needs. Like, especially for a song like, you know, Do the Evolution or you know, if we're talking about like, I don't know, Brain of Jay. It's just like you need that. Like it's got to be like almost punk rock kind of thing. And he owns that. And I think a lot of people that I've talked to who are not fans of Matt Cameron, like being in Pearl Jam, because they feel like it's too robotic. Like he doesn't have the feel. Let's be real, that Dave Abbruzzese has. He doesn't have that funkiness
Yeah.
like you were talking
He's
about.
I think he's like the fan favorite, I would imagine. You know, if you asked 100 people, I imagine that yeah, Dave would be their favorite because it's tied to, you know, that early stuff as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Matt Cameron's an insane drummer. I mean, he's absolutely world class. You know, and some of the stuff he does, you know, none of the other drummers, I don't think, in all fairness to them, would be able to do. You know, and you listen
Mm-hmm.
to some of the like the grace notes on Mind Your Manners. You know, there's a Vic Firth video of him playing that. It's just the isolated drums, and you're like, oh, there's so much just hidden there, right, in the mix.
Yep.
Or like on the new album, right, where you're like, that sounds like a drum machine. That's Matt Cameron, just
Yeah, I
sounding
know.
like a drum machine. But I think
Yeah.
he's taken, you know, the Soundgarden vibe. I mean, he basically didn't turn up to Pearl Jam and say, let me, you know, play those songs as they've always been played. He just went, this is how I play them, and that's that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think without him, they wouldn't even be around, you know.
Yeah,
Do
he
you know what I mean? I
saved their
think he's
life.
probably been a bit of glue, really, you know, over the years. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just different, isn't it? But then again, I quite like some of the fills that he does live. So if you listen to Better Man, there's a wicked like one of those, you know, one of those
Yeah.
sort of fills that he's put in. I think I love the stuff that he does live in Present Tense. Present Tense is amazing. The end of that, the outro to Present Tense live, transforms. It's like part Who song, part, you know, they put a load of they just change it up. And I love that he does that. And Corduroy too, right? There's some really cool stuff that he does in Corduroy live. So yeah, I'm a big fan of all of them. I think he's definitely given them a you know, a different angle,
Oh yeah,
for
for
better or
sure.
for worse.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I remember hearing some of the stuff and being like, man, he's really pushing that BPM. Like, this
Oh,
is
even flow, yeah. I don't like even flow. If I say that, I'm like, right, I'm gonna go and get a beer. I'm not a fan of how they play even flow live.
Yeah.
It's too quick. It's like they're just like, let's get this one out of the way.
Get it over with.
You know?
Yeah. So true, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
so like, and we could talk about Pearl Jam the whole friggin' time, but like we should probably give the people
Good.
what they want to. So like outside of that, during the 90s, like are there any other players or albums or songs that you were just like, oh wow, now there's this I gotta digest?
Yeah. Well, Steve Vai, I've said already, Eat 'em and Smile and Skyscraper and Passion and Warfare.
Mhm.
Those three, just insane. They're very happy times for me. I mean, I loved Alice in Chains though. If we go after, you know, Alice in Chains when they came out, because actually before I only really got into them really with Dirt and the self-titled track that they did with the dog with three legs on the front of it, right? Which I absolutely loved, but I didn't really get into their earlier records until much later. And when I listen to those now, I'm like, holy crap, they really bridge the gap between almost thrash metal. The guitar tones especially are almost,
Yeah.
you know, thrash, right? But with, you know, a lot more blues, a lot more in the vocal melodies and stuff. And I mean, and Nirvana as well. I think when Nirvana came out, they did that whole thing where, you know, it's giving you all of this sort of hard edged guitar and drums and bass, but the vocal over the top has its own thing now. Like there's poetry there, there's incredible there's incredible melodies there as well, but it's raw and and they were just huge, weren't they? I mean, I remember Teen Spirit and all those classics coming out, and they were just insane. I mean, I remember that those had got some very fond memories of those. There's so many. Jane's Addiction, I think, as well. They were kind of just before Pearl Jam as well. I mean, like Been Caught Stealing. We used to have, like like a Raw Power, it's called. I think it's like a TV show in the UK. So like a sort of cheap MTV, kind of Headbangers Ball, I guess. But yeah, they were always, the video for that and the guitar playing in that is just insane. That was huge. Who else? There was so many.
Yeah. Were you into Blind Melon at all?
Not massively. Again, I'm getting into loads more. So like grunge bands, I'm getting into those more now. So which is wonderful because you're like, woo! Some other stuff I haven't like listened to loads, right?
Yeah.
Smashing Pumpkins as well. I've, there's loads of their back catalogue that I haven't even tapped into really, just because I went, cool, love Siamese Dream and what was the other one? Melancholy. Those two were just those were amazing. Actually, he was doing something very unique. I think Billy Corgan with his guitar playing. He's probably one of the more unique guitar players actually of that time. He was just doing very different chord voicings. Lots of open B and E strings and all that sort of stuff. So that was always cool.
Matt, let me interrupt real quick. Have you like analyzed the Cherub Rock solo?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do a video on it too?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
I've
do it. I think the because that's got some really weird phasing. I think it's tape flange, whatever, where they physically slow down the tapes and it does that whole thing. So I'm not sure what he does live, but that's a brilliant solo.
Yeah, the fuzz on that too, like it's just like out of control. All right, continue. Yeah. I just had to ask that.
And that, I mean, they've got that pedal, right? It's that the Big Muff Pi, is it? I think the op amp Big Muff Pi, right? Which is whatever it is, I forget. It's got a really long name, but that is his, modeled on that album, So I love that. I love that you can just go, and it's inexpensive. You can just go right buying that, and then you just got that sound, right? But that, the solo, that's got some extra bells and whistles, hasn't it? So yeah, phaser and all sorts of great stuff. They're just visceral, right? It's a visceral solo, isn't it?
It is. A lot of his stuff, like when you hear, even listening to Siamese Dream and some of those pop hits, like nobody was playing like him at that time.
No.
If you really look at what was happening, nobody was doing that. And the reason I ask about Blind Melon is because the same thing. Blind Melon was another huge influence on me, but like they were totally against the grain at that time. I mean, they were still doing this rock thing, but they had this hippie element to what they were doing almost. So it almost leaned towards like that whole jam band, Grateful Dead type vibe. So did the Spin Doctors. Eric Shankman is one of the most estimated guitar players during that period as well. He was a huge influence on me. Mostly because how Princess, he phrased. Was it? Yeah, Two Princes. Yeah.
Two Princes. Yeah.
Yeah. But he, like the way if you listen to a really good record to listen to of the Spin Doctors is Homebelly Groove. It's a live record. Recorded in a very small club in New York City. And that's no longer there. And it is flawless. And it's a live record, but like they improvise a lot on that album as a power trio. And the way that Eric approaches notes, the way that he phrases, the way that he mixes major and minor and modes, and just nobody was doing that either. Like I didn't hear anybody, doing that kind of thing at the time. So you really think about it, like there was a large bag of guitarists that were just like probably giving us all the education we needed at the time,
Yeah, I do remember his guitar playing in that, because that, again, it was very radio friendly. I mean, I guess John Frusciante as well, though, to be fair, was bringing in some serious amounts of funk on Blood Sugar Sex Magic, right?
Yeah.
And so those two, I probably, I remember thinking, oh, they do that funky, those chords, those Prince chords, those, and I used to love all that. I mean, because I must admit, alongside all of the sort of thrash metal, I remember reading about Alex Skolnick, who's now a jazz guitarist, pretty much, right? And he mentioned Chick Corea, right? So when I was about 15 or something like that, I bought a Chick Corea album, and it's just unreal. I mean, you've got Lenny White, Stanley Clarke, Al Di Meola, who was like 18 or something ludicrous. I mean, and Chick Corea, but they're playing thrash metal. Do you know what I mean? They are playing, I mean, it's not thrash metal, but they're playing that sort of fusion that came in the late, mid to late 70s, I guess.
Yeah.
I loved all that. I still love all that.
The chorus soaked guitar tone. It's like paper thin guitar tone.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff feels like fingers on a chalkboard to me. Like even like some of the old Scofield stuff, and I'm a huge Scofield fan, but some of it I'm like, nah, like I like my bebop Scofield, and I like my like a go-go era Scofield.
Yeah.
That's
quite funky, right? Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my God,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was because he puts together like a sort of a band, doesn't he, for like an album, and then he's like, right, next get some new musicians in, and keeps it quite fresh. I actually shook John Scofield's hand. I saw him at the Jazz Cafe, I think it was, in London. I took my mum to see him, right? And man, I love that guy. I was so chuffed. I was like, John.
Let me see
exactly. But yeah, I mean, that was just a masterclass. You're just like, just give up. Might as well just stop playing. He was just something else.
He has just like every ounce of him is just knowledge. I feel like when he picks up a guitar, it's like you can't help but be in awe watching that guy. Even if he's playing the most simple thing, like if he's doing like one of those like Ray Charles like country bass tunes, like when he did that record, the way that he approaches and even his sound, like he's one of those cats where you hear a measure of guitar playing and it's him. That's special. Sure. That's when you know you've done something right. So man,
totally.
Well, any other? So we talked about Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. Okay, here's a good one for you. Soundgarden wise, I mean, obviously, Louder Than Love and Bad Motorfinger need some love in terms of respect and everything, but Swan Song for me is super unknown. The way that album was recorded, every single song on that album, I love Bad Motorfinger, but Super Unknown is just flawless from start to finish. What are your thoughts on those records?
Yeah, do you know what? Again, I wasn't a huge Soundgarden fan. I'm finding I'm appreciating them way more now. Like, I never saw them live, which was a bit silly, but I loved. I mean, they were the gateway songs. Black Hole Sun. I mean, what an absolute classic that song is. I mean, I know it's not one of the sort of, it's one of the sort of more popular ones, right? Not a diehard fan one, right? But it's just an absolute masterpiece. And they did so much good stuff on that album. But I used to find, when I used to listen to that, I used to find the whole time signature stuff quite jarring. So it's not as accessible, as other bands were. And that's probably at the time, even though I did still, like the jazz and all that sort of stuff. I didn't gravitate to that one like as much as some others. I mean, some of the, there's loads of brilliant tunes on that album. I mean, and the singing as well. I got to say, I appreciate Chris's singing way more now than I did back then. Don't know why. That was, but
I can understand that though, because it's not as palpable as listening to Eddie, like sing a song, or it's different, but he definitely changed his vibe. If you listen to like, Bad Motorfinger, and then you put that right up against Super Unknown, he vocally was approaching that record very differently. You can tell immediately. But I think the interesting thing about Super Unknown too is I feel like it's an aural masterpiece. Like that album, I listened to it in headphones when I was working out one day. It's the first time I'd ever listened in headphones.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was finding so many cool things that I missed listening through the stereo of my car or whatever. So that is a great record to listen through headphones if you're going to take a moment.
Yeah.
Really is. I mean, it was a masterpiece. The way, I mean, it's like I would put it up there with Pet Sounds, you know,
Oh,
like
I mean,
it's
there's
that good.
no question. And Kim as well probably doesn't get enough credit. You know, maybe he does. All right, you know, he's not underrated for me, but you know, often people always say, "Oh, they're very underrated guitar players." But his use of effects is just amazing too. He used so much chorus in those first like couple of albums. But he uses loads of cool stuff, octavers, all sorts of like, you know, funky things. But you know, you've got you know the wah pedal filter song. God, I can't remember what it's called. You know the one I mean.
You talking about? Oh yeah. Oh man, what the
What
heck
is
is
that called?
that? Oh my god! Help us out, people.
Rusty Cage. That's
Oh
what
yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I had to listen. I had to listen to the lyrics. How Chris used to keep that tone, play the riff, and then sing on top
Dude.
is beyond me. I know he was a bit of a drummer, wasn't he? So I think that's probably when you see like the rhythm, they're like, "Why are you playing such weird rhythms?" And they're like, "They're not really weird rhythms to us." You know, they probably were in a. I love that about how they must have written the songs, right? They'd be in a rehearsal room, right, and then someone would come up with something that you just go, "What are you doing there?" Ah, I get it, and they'd lock in, and then that would be the drum beat for it, or however they, you know, work that out. And I love that because they're not really. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Matt Cameron is probably like. I think he probably knows exactly what's going on, like time signatures all the way through, right?
Yeah.
But you know, you can imagine that they're just like, I don't know. I think is it 5/4? I don't know. It's just this riff. It's not like they don't go. We should do one in 7/8. Let's put a
Right.
bar of 3/8 in here. I bet they never did any of that, right? Because
No.
and when I played in bands, you'd go, oh, let's do a weird thing. You know, you deliberately put something a little bit jarring in there or whatever, right? Just for fun. I I get the I get the impression anyway. This is obviously me just you know making this up, but I get the impression that that's just what they liked. They just liked that sound, right? And
Yeah.
and the phrase, and went, "That's cool. That's a cool phrase. Yeah, done." And then everyone, when they listen to it, goes, "What's going on there?" I mean, Tool do the same thing as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went to see Tool recently, and one of the funnest things was seeing people trying to like rock out to some of their tunes, and then the beat would like, and you like all these really big guys standing up, and they'd lose the beat again, and then honestly, it was the best bit of the gig. That was my favorite thing about the gig.
Dude, yeah, it's like I can't remember what time signature the day I tried to live is in, but that's even a little weird, you know, like a
Yeah,
you know, it's
I think
not,
it's 2 bars of 7/8 and 2 bars of 4/4, I
and it
think.
feels so normal. Like it doesn't feel super weird. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like you can tell that it's an odd meter, but it's like that doesn't
yeah,
bother me, you know.
yeah.
It's a great song. That's a great song.
Amazing. That is
Mm.
an amazing song. I love that. The
Got a
dynamics
couple
in that are brilliant.
got some Blues Traveler love in here. And also
I haven't heard those. Oh,
Mahavishnu
yes.
Orchestra. Yeah. I mean that's ooh, that stuff is like that is heady music, man. That
Birds of
is
Fire, was it?
say
Yeah, I
again.
think that was Birds of Fire, wasn't it? They did.
Oh, I
Bam,
yeah.
bam, 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 bam,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
bam.
yeah, yeah.
That's weird as time signatures too, right?
Oh
So
my
John
God.
Brooklyn, wasn't it?
Some of that stuff is so odd. Like even if you listen to like I was in a jazz trio group, fusion group for a little while, and we were doing some weird tunes off of like what is it? Oh my God. I always want to say, is it Bill Holland? I can't remember who. So I got exposed to all this music that I'd never heard, and it was all funky, weird meters. And I was like, oh crap, that's not my forte. I'm not the greatest in playing it on time signatures, but I'll learn it and I'll get done and I'll make it happen. But talk about a way to keep you on your damn toes on a gig. Like there's nowhere to hide. Like if it's,
Yeah.
especially if you're just in a trio, if it's just drums, bass, and guitar, and I got to carry the melody and keep time and all that stuff. It was a very serious growth period of my playing, man. Like I was like, there's no way I'm gonna. I mean, I have to just survive for the next probably 6 minutes because we're also going to be improvising and blowing over the changes too. Oh my god. Terry's here saying hello.
Hey, Terry.
BV, what's going on, my friend? So anyway,
Ninja.
we can, let me just see what else I had because I never get to everything I want to talk about.
Oh,
So
Black Crows as well.
Oh
They
yeah,
were just.
I mean,
Anyway, sorry, go on. If you've got other stuff, so I was just thinking of other bands.
no, keep going. Yeah, I mean, we can't forget the Black Crows for sure. I mean, Shake Your Moneymaker was quite the record when that came out. I mean, come
So
on
good.
now. What's your favorite Black Crows record?
I don't actually know. I think I like Remedy. That's a bang. There was a specific live version of Remedy that we always used to listen to, I think at college, and I just loved that. That was just everything. It was just rock and roll, but it was so much musicianship, and the guitar players are just fantastic, aren't they? So
the glissando at the beginning of that tune. It's so great, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Amorica is probably my favorite record. It's got some really good songs on it, including Wiser Time. You know that track?
I don't know that one.
Oh man, you gotta, like after this, just go listen to Wiser Time. It's such a great tune. Talk about a weird, odd time signature in the chorus. Very strange, but it's super rad. The last thing I just wanted to talk to you about really quick, and then we can do the lightning round get down. But
cool.
Did you, so when you entered the world of social media, guitarist and YouTube, you said, so your YouTube channel's it's been about 4 years, right? Have you been doing that?
Yeah. I basically didn't play guitar for about 15 years, something like that.
Really?
No, I stopped playing so I was in my 20s, probably trying to make it in a band, and we all had crap day jobs, right? We had no money, and we had really awful day jobs. They're just, really boring, mundane office stuff. And back then we'd live for the weekends, so we'd go and play gigs, but we'd not make any money at it. We were sometimes paying, to play gigs, right? And so as we were all approaching our 30s, we were like, we should probably get, a career, maybe. This isn't going to happen. Do you know what I mean? This is not happening. So I just put all that on the back burner. I just had like, one guitar. I never got rid of my one guitar that I'd had since I was about 18. And that's the blue Telly with 3 pickups, the sort of Nashville style sort of setup that I still have now. And that's the only bit of gear that I kept. I got rid of my amp, I got rid of all my stuff, and just didn't play for about 10 years, maybe, yeah, about 10 years. I had kids and stuff as well, so that, it just wasn't the time, but just started to get back into it. And then, I thought, well, I'm gonna teach some Pearl Jam songs, because I got well into like learning all the Pearl Jam songs. And so I thought, I'll just do that. And that's how it started out. That's why it's called Let's Play All, right? It's a play on Let's Play 2, which is their live album. And it was just going to be Pearl Jam songs. I thought, I'll just do that, and then that'll be done. But I will do every single song they've ever done, note for note. And I was really anal about note for note, as much as I could, right? So so I started out doing that, and then it took off quite quickly from there. And a cover that I did of Even Flow I got loads of views. So I thought, maybe I can do some more. So I just branched out into other stuff, and I'll occasionally put in, something that wasn't, sort of the grunge, just to see, if anyone else would like it too, right? And it's gone really well. So it's a slow thing. I think with YouTube, you can't just suddenly go, you've amassed, a following for a particular thing. You can't just pivot wildly and go, I want to do this now, because they'll be like, that's not what we signed up for, right? So,
peace out.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And that's fair enough, right? Because they'll be like, nah, don't like that anymore.
Right.
So but fortunately there's so much good music, of that genre and time, that I'm still discovering. I love it. So yeah, it's as much fun for me as hopefully it is for people watching it.
Yeah. Well, man, you do such a great job. I can't remember how I found you initially, but I immediately could tell like that you do your homework. You really put your heart
Oh,
and
thanks, mate.
soul into it, and like because you're trying to educate and you're trying to be like, here's what I got, take it or leave it kind of thing. Like this is what I think is the right thing. This is how they play it. This is the effects they're using. It's just super helpful for a lot of people who are beginning guitarists who may be a new generation falling in love with this music,
I get a lot of people commenting that I've picked up my guitar again, or you've encouraged me. I love some of my favorite comments actually are, or people have said like, I've had a really bad back injury. One guy was, told me a big story about, how he's recovering, and that the guitar is actually giving him, it's kind of given him some inspiration to go, I remember that thing in the corner that I loved when I was a kid. I used to love playing that. And hopefully it reignites, some of that passion. I mean, the whole thing really is to hopefully just inspire someone, right? You'd throw it out there, you don't know what's going to happen. People may hate it, but everyone's been super lovely since the beginning, right? There's very little trolling. Everyone that comments, 99.9% of the time are lovely. They are lovely comments. So yeah, I couldn't ask for a better bunch, really.
Yeah. And I think that the Instagram world too is a majority speaking is very positive.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of like supporting each other and kind of sharing ideas and what you're doing is so cool. And it obviously resonates with me. I love anytime you come up with something new and pops up, I'm like, oh yeah, like that track's killing. So
Yeah.
it's like there's just little things like that it just I think ultimately speaking, bringing joy to, a little part of someone's day goes a long way, man.
Hopefully.
So
Yeah, I hope so, right? I mean, even if it's one person at the end of the day, maybe it's my mum watching all the vids. I don't know.
man,
But hopefully not.
gotta please
But
somebody.
well, exactly,
Oh,
yeah. Which is lovely. That's a huge thing. That isn't I mean I laugh about it, but I genuinely don't take that lightly. I think that's an amazing thing, that through social media you can just chuck something out there and cheer someone up, right? That is a
yeah.
pretty nice thing to do, right? So,
Mhm.
I'm all for
Yeah.
that.
Well, keep doing it, man, because you are doing it and it's awesome. So, all
Thanks,
right,
Mark.
cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. All right, you want to do this lightning round get down? I changed this up
Let's do
because
it.
of the topic today, so it's not going to be the same thing I normally do. But I
Okay.
think it's going to be fun nonetheless.
All right. So I've got to
Here's
just answer as quickly as possible.
Well, no, you can explain your answers too. Like I love
Oh,
hearing
okay.
explanations. It's not necessary. You don't have to explain why you answered it the way you are answering it, man.
Okay.
But if you do, take the floor. It's all good. All right, ready?
Okay. Let's do it. Let the
Stone.
healing commence.
All right, Stone Gossard or Mike McCready? Got to
Stone Gossard.
choose. Okay. Radiohead or Pink Floyd?
Radiohead. Oh, that's difficult.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is difficult. Yeah, I know. I'll go Radiohead.
Okay. Lenny Kravitz or Ben Harper?
Lenny.
Okay. Blind Melon. Okay. So Blind Melon's first record or their second album, Soup? Which one of those two?
Oh, I don't really know them that well. I'll go for the first one.
All right. So that's the B. That's the B girl in the front of it. So
Yeah.
check out
let's do
Soup.
that one.
Soup is amazing. I love Soup. Soup. I think
I'm going to
Soup
write that
is
down.
my favorite over
Right.
the two. All right. Chris Cornell covers. Which do you prefer? His cover of Patience or his cover of Nothing Compares?
I'd probably go Nothing Compares. I love that
Okay.
tune.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about this band at all, but Stone Temple Pilots. Which record do you prefer?
Oh God, how did we
I
not
know,
do
right?
that?
I don't know how we did
Dean
that.
DeLeo. Oh, okay.
Dude, I know. Okay, between these two records, STP wise, Purple or Tiny Music?
Probably go Purple.
Okay, dude, do you not agree? The guitar tones on both of those records, I think
Amazing.
particular on Tiny Music from the Vatican Gift Shop, those guitar tones, I think he was playing through a little Supro 10-inch like combo amp. Was
Oh, was he?
most of that
AC30
record.
maybe on
He
some of
might have
that.
been
I'm not
running a
sure.
couple amps. But listen to like some of those solos, like especially, well, take for instance, if we go to Purple and you listen to Army Ants, that solo, the room mics on that solo, the way it was recorded is so awesome. Like
I haven't actually analyzed that. I'll have to
dude.
check that one out.
And Army Ants, that drum fill that goes into the guitar solo is by far my favorite drum fill of any song in the 90s.
Ah, right.
Hands down.
Right. I'm going to listen to that again. I've got to say, Dean DeLeo stuff, whenever I have to work his stuff out, I spend more time watching live videos of him than anyone else just to figure out what is he doing. His chord voicings are insane. Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. All right, here we talk about this backspacer or no code.
I'd go backspacer.
Okay. This is gonna be really hard for you. John Frusciante.
Hail, though. Yeah.
Yeah,
John Frusciante.
Or Dave Navarro.
Dave Navarro. Navarro's my boy. I actually had a row with my mates at college because when One Hot Minute came out, I was like, yeah, that's more like it. And they were all just like, oh, what are you talking about? I was like,
I thought that record was great too, man. I love that record.
Dave, I do love.
Yeah.
They are both incredible. And again, Frusciante, I found I appreciate his guitar playing way more now.
Right. And when Josh came in, he did a great job, dude. And he is a hell of a drummer when he sat in with PJ.
Yeah, and keyboards, whatever else. Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
And I did not know this. My friend told me this the other day. I didn't look it up to fact check him, but when Dave Crutzen came back and played, he sounded killing. And I was like, yeah, he sounded great. And he's like, he's been playing with Candlebox. And I was like, he has?
Yeah.
Is that true? I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. All right. Spin Doctors or Soul Asylum?
Ooh. I'd probably go Spin Doctors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last question is always the same, but sometimes it's the hardest, sometimes it's the easiest, Matt. If you could take one album and erase it from your memory, so you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and listen to it and experience it for the first time again, what album would that be?
That's a great question. It would probably be 10.
Okay.
I think it would probably be 10.
How come?
You'd have to kind of erase all the other ones, though, wouldn't you? Because if you know all of their newer stuff and then you hear that, it probably wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
So if I could erase all of Pearl Jam's albums and then listen to 10, I think that would be cool. Or I might even say there's probably a few. Jeff Buckley, Grace, possibly, because that is timeless. I think that is a timeless album, and I'd love to hear that again. Maybe Muse as well. And I mean, I got into them at the same time as Jeff Buckley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably go for one of those two.
Man.
How about you? That's a great question.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, people ask me all the time, and they think I would say Yield, but I mean, I've had multiple opportunities to answer this question, and sometimes I change it up. But I mean, if it had to be a Pearl Jam record, it probably would be Yield. Because that's my favorite album. Because I can remember being at college. I was a freshman in college when it came out, and I can remember being in my dorm and like knowing Pearl Jam had a record coming out, and I was in class, and I was like, I'm going to the mall to buy a CD. And I didn't have a car on campus, and my buddy did. And I was like, can you please drive me to the mall so I can get this record? And we got the record. We came back to our dorm room and put it on and played 007 GoldenEye like all day,
Nice.
like the rest of the day. Just like had that album
exactly like what I was doing at uni as well. Yeah.
So that, I mean,
or FIFA football.
Yeah, totally, dude. But yeah, so that would be kind of like my go-to. It's hard with Pearl Jam because, dude, I also love Binaural is like it's one of my favorites too. It's super dark. but
Yeah,
like
Light
Matt
Years
crushed
is
it.
an amazing tune. Yeah,
Oh god, yeah,
Light Years
yeah.
is that's one of those, you play that at your funeral, don't you? That's just a brilliant tune.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, there is just so much great music on that record, and I think Matt really kinda stepped it up and, like, on that record and kinda made Pearl Jam are what they are today, based off of that record, I feel like, almost. Um, some of the stuff with Boom, like, I get it
Mm.
how Eddie's like, "He's my boy. He's gonna play B3 on some stuff." Like, I've heard him, rip it on, like, Crazy Mary or whatever. And I like Love Boat Captain. I don't hate on that song. A lot of people hate that
Oh,
tune.
I
I'm like,
do. I
I think it's a
Yeah, I
great
like
song.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes, like, I think they do it right where he's not there the whole night. He comes up and off. Um, like
Sure. I mean,
Pendulum
surely that's probably Josh now, right? I mean, is
is
Boom still playing with them now?
I thought he
I'm not,
was. I thought I
is he still on
saw
the tour with them? Oh.
I thought he was. I saw his rig set up. I don't know. I mean, it could be wrong from a video, but if he's not, and if Josh is just doing it, I wonder what the story is there. But I think they do it right where they like, have him come up and play. If they're playing Pendulum, he's gonna come up and do that thing and all that. But it's it's not the same. Like when you see those guys, 5 guys together by themselves, there's just an energy to it. Like Eddie's most recent solo record, I didn't really like. I was like,
Mm.
there's a couple songs I'm like,
Earthlings.
yeah, I was like, there's a couple songs that are cool, but like, kind of the sum is greater than their parts kind of situation. I kind of feel that way about that band. Like, if you put Eddie,
I would have loved to have seen them live. I mean, the
yeah,
band that toured
I know
with
Chad Smith.
like Chad
Yeah,
Smith on drums and
yeah,
yeah, I mean Josh on guitar as well, right? And you got Glenn Hansard as well. He was opening for them. I mean, that would have been just
yeah.
insane. Yeah, Chris Cheney on bass. I mean, just like all stars, right?
I know, I
Um,
know.
but
And
yeah,
they,
that would have been good to see live. But yeah, I was like, yeah, it didn't really capture me too much, you know, which is a shame because I think one of the things that that actually attracted me more to Pearl Jam than it did to any other band really was the connection with Eddie's lyrics, which we haven't spoken about at all, right? And that
yeah,
is literally, I mean, there are times in my life where I've put those on. I'll put a certain song on and it's just gone, that's explaining exactly how I'm feeling. Yeah, that's just summed up exactly what's just gone on in my life. That's happened to me several points in my life, several kind of big life-changing sort of bit moments where, they've Eddie's helped it all make sense, and go, okay, yeah, cool.
yeah.
So I love that about the lyrics. There's no other bands that I connect with on that level at all. And so I think maybe that was why, it was just always those rather than Soundgarden. I always loved Soundgarden, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, all of those. But
Hmm.
just the lyrical content for Pearl Jam is just always just,
Yeah.
just resonated.
It's very intentional. I feel like his thumbprint on that stuff is very intentional. And I love the fact that now, through the years, other people have written lyrics and he's sang them. And,
Mm,
if there's a good idea, then he's like all in, it seems like there's like a very more so these days than maybe Vitology era where the baton kind of switched from Stone to Eddie.
yeah,
Seems more democratic. Like
yeah,
the older those guys get. I get the vibe though that Mike's he's just like, whatever, whatever you guys want to do. Like he seems like he's just like, okay, like that's
yeah.
fine.
But he's contributed more and more, hasn't he, Mike? I think as the years have
Mhm.
gone. I know there's like, I think on PJ20 you get a really good insight because Faithful is, Mike McCready's credited as with the music to that, right? But there's a bit in it where he obviously calls up Stone because he wants to link two parts together, and Stone sings him something over the top. Oh, try this down there, and then
Yeah.
that'll work, right? So I think I've read as well that Stone's very much, will coordinate or orchestrate or help, sort of, glue bits and pieces together. So
Mhm.
even though, it's got one person's name on the writing credits, that they've all had a bit of a hand in it, right? So
Yeah, totally. I love Stone too, man. He's got such a. I mean, I even loved that one record he put out, Moonlander.
Yeah,
That song, I Need Something Different. It's a killer tune, like a killer rock tune, and he just has such a great sensibility for catchy, hooky stuff,
yeah.
which I
Yeah,
resonate
and
with.
Brad's, right? I mean, if you heard a
Yeah.
lot of the Brad stuff, some of
Hmm.
that is amazing. I mean, he wrote that was in between, I think, 10 and Verses, wasn't it? One of those Brad albums. Who's like,
Yeah.
let's just do another album while I'm having my summer off or whatever, and it's just got some absolute cracking stuff in it.
Oh my
Like
God. Yeah.
20th Century, right? And then you've got um, WMA, right, which has an almost identical guitar part, right? It's all around that same, digga, 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 it's got that
Yeah.
vibe. So it's just, and then you think, Temple of the Dog, before that Green River, I mean, it just
Hmm.
there was those probably 5 or 6 years where he was absolutely relentless. I mean, his output was just, insane, really.
Yeah. Really,
Uh,
for
so,
real.
uh, and I mean, his output. Certainly, he's got Painted Shield now as well, isn't he? Which I think they're doing Ohana, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Matt
Yeah,
Chamberlain too, man. What a dude. That's another guy that's like, I'm glad that those guys are working together because they're both compositional powerhouses,
yeah.
It's pretty neat to see that. But
Matt
dude,
Chamberlain's an absolute beast. He's done a load of those professional drum sample packs that you get, and you
yep.
can get a Matt Chamberlain one, right? I mean, it's what you'd expect. It's just high. It's just like a top level session pro. Do you know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Yeah. That guy's killing, dude.
Yeah,
But it's fun to see all these iterations, and I will forever, I don't care if the album sucks. I'll buy it because I'm a big fan. But like it's just, I thought Gigaton was great. Like it's like, especially the first three tracks, like that like hooked me immediately.
I loved it.
But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just, and I'm trying. I want to try to go see them this summer if they're like, even if they're within 2 hours. They're playing in New Jersey. Um, I can't remember when that is at Camden, New Jersey. But yeah, it's just they're a band that everybody should see. And I just got
yeah.
to see Paul McCartney. Dude, I had tickets. I was ninth row center for Paul McCartney. And
Wow,
that
I
was
saw your Instagram post actually. Brilliant.
that was crazy. I have a
You
friend
were
who
in the
used to
mall.
work. Yeah, I have a friend who used to work for him. And she was like, I can get you and your wife a ticket. And I was like, okay. So we had no clue where we were going to be sitting. I thought we were going to be in the nosebleeds, and I didn't care. And
Yeah.
they gave us our tickets and it said field. I was like, there's no way that we're actually down on the field. And my wife and I we were walking down and we just kept getting closer and closer. And I was like, there's no freaking way that these are legitimately up there. So we like went to an usher and was like, are we in the right place? She's like, yeah, you guys are up there, ninth row. And my wife and I looked at each other and I was like, I cannot believe this is happening right now. So now that has happened, because Paul's my other huge influence, I just need to see Pearl Jam that close, and then I can die a happy man. That's all I
Yeah.
need. So
Yeah.
one day. Have you been that close at one of their shows?
No, I don't think I have. Maybe no, I haven't. Every time I've gone, it's been with friends, and we've just got drunk, and just enjoyed the vibe. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't. Part of me wanted to go. Oh, I want to queue up all night and do the rail thing, but I'm just there with friends to enjoy it, and
Yeah.
so I don't at that point. I just think I just whatever they're going to play, brilliant. I'm just having a great
I'm all
day.
in.
Yeah. But we've got I'm going to see Jerry Cantrell in a couple of weeks. He's playing
Nice.
London, and I love his new album. That is superb. I
I
mean,
haven't heard it.
oh, go check it out. It is
What's the name of the
absolutely
record?
brilliant. I can't even remember. Is it called one of the tracks is called A Tone?
Okay. I'll look
Brighton.
it up.
Is it called Brighton? Might be called Brighton. Can't even remember. I listen to so much stuff on Spotify that I never know the names of anything now. Do you know what I mean? Or what album it's from? Like, don't know. It's just the fourth one, like that. So
Right.
yeah, but he's doing quite a bit of the Alice in Chains stuff from what I've seen, from the set list that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we'll treat ourselves. So me and my buddy are actually going to do the meet and greet. So we're going to go and say hi. Get
Nice.
something signed. Might get him to sign my face or something. I don't know.
And then just get tattooed.
Yeah,
signature.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh
So yeah, I'm
man.
really looking forward to that. That should be cool, and that's in a really small venue. So I'm keen to go and see that. I've seen a few other bands like Muse. I've seen Muse super close in that Royal Albert Hall. I saw Muse, literally
Mm,
third row, standing up. That was just amazing.
dang.
Yeah, that
That's
was
yeah.
great.
Wow.
And Royal Blood, seen them in a really small venue. That was awesome as well. But yeah, never with Pearl Jam. There's such big venues that they play at right now
I know.
that I'm just like, I don't really want to, because I don't want to go down the front and then go, oh God, now I've got to stand here for like hours. And you know, for me, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll
Yeah.
have some beers. I've got
Yeah.
some half decent seats, but I'd rather just have some beers, go to the toilet when I want, you know,
Yeah.
jump around with my friends, you know.
That's so
Yeah.
great. Well, Matt, I know it's late. I'm gonna let you
Mm,
go, but dude, I really, really appreciate it. I mean, we could talk about this stuff for 3 hours probably. So,
we could.
oh
Yeah.
man, but
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor.
dude, of course, man, absolutely my pleasure. Tell everybody, so for all my people who may not be hip to your channel, tell them where they can find everything, like all the socials and all that.
Yeah, so it's youtube.com/let's play all. And I think my Instagram is let's play all guitar.
Okay,
That's
sweet.
it. That's all
Go
you
check
need.
him out if you guys are fans of this music. He does that and much, much more. So make sure you check him out. Matt, dude, thank you again so much. Everybody, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we will see you next time.
Take it easy.